Damning reporting from the Project on Government Oversight has embroiled Postmaster General Louis DeJoy in a massive insider trading scandal centered around the Biden administration's distribution of free COVID-19 tests through the United States Postal Service. So newly released disclosure documents show DeJoy owns as much as $250,000 worth of stock in Abbott Laboratories, a medical supplies company that struck a $306 million contract with the federal government this January for their test kits.
DeJoy reportedly purchased as much as $15,000 worth of Abbott Laboratories call options on January 7th. That's the day the White House's distribution partnership with the USPS was announced. He then made another purchase totaling as much as $50,000 worth of call options on January 13th. That's just 2 days before the Biden administration formally announced the multi-million-dollar partnership with Abbott Laboratories. According to the Project on Government Account Oversight, the federal government has since purchased an additional $1 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars in kits from Abbott Labs. So this looks a little fishy.
And I think you know what? Democrats deserve now to be getting hit, collaterally with a scandal from DeJoy for leaving him in place. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the guy that they were going around in 2020 saying was purposely undermining the Postal Service to help Trump win the election.
My recollection of that story was that a mountain was being made out of a molehill, and it was not.
Fine, but these are the mountain makers. And so now the mountain makers
I didn't realize he was still in the position.
Are in power. They're like, well, we can't do much. But since the summer, they've been saying they're going to get rid of him internally. It hasn't happened. What you'd have to do is get rid of the board, and then the board would have to get rid of him. But they could do that. Like, that's not an impossibility.
We should get rid of the whole US Postal Service.
The only thing you could fire, what's in the Constitution, can't. The only thing that they could that they can fire him directly for is for cause. This looks like cause. I mean, you get if he had information, which you would presume he would, of this deal, and he buys options ahead of time, so that when it surges after the deal, his stock options go way up. That's crazy. And meanwhile, the other thing that Democrats hit him for is basically coming from a competitor of the Postal Service and doing everything he can to undermine the Postal Service to benefit the private competitors of the Postal Service. That he's still in power at this point is on Democrats.
Yeah. I do think, though, there was a lot wrong with I remember that being a very kind of resistance narrative that did not turn out sort of along the lines of Russian collusion. That he was changing the mailing the ballots plans or something to harm Democrats, and he really wasn't.
I mean, the fact is the ballots got out, and they came back, so it worked.
Well, and then criticizing this sort of thing became a Trumpian thing. So I think right, that's what our enemies say. Let's not feed into that.
Right. That's right. We're going back into a world when Democrats were constantly crying election fraud.
Unfair election. But yeah, this does not look ethical, obviously. I mean, it's so funny that politicians, it's not funny, they just routinely do this. Maybe I would make a bad, corrupt government official, because I think if I learned information, it would not occur to me to buy stock. I don't buy stocks, period. Right. But I wouldn't be like, yes, call my broker. Like, this just wouldn't be my first thought.
What company was that we're partnering with? Abbott Laboratories?
But it is for so many of them. It's the first thing they do when they come out of the meeting. Call the family member or the broker and set up a deal.
Like Richard Burr walking out of that meeting, bloop, and then calling his brother-in-law or whatever. Spencer Baucus, who kicked off this entire thing, I don't know if you remember him, former ranking member of the Financial Services Committee during the financial crisis. Mm-hmm. There was that meeting with Bernanke and Paulson that they've done a million movies about. The world's about to end. Baucus walks out of that meeting, back flip phone days, whoop, sell everything.
Incredible.
Yeah. And here, that was 2008. Here we are, 14 years later. It's still legal, more or less.
Haven't done anything to stop it.
For them to do it. In Congress, you can't. In Congress, it's now illegal, at least, to do it. And if you get caught, but Richard Burr basically did it and didn't get prosecuted. But this looks so dirty.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the appearance of corruption. Even if this is the world's biggest coincidence, two coincidences back to back on 2 different days.
Not a coincidence.
Go ahead and say it's
Not a
fine.
coincidence.
But even if it is, it creates the appearance of corruption, which undermines trust in government. And so that alone is a reason to ban this stuff.
Right.
Now, it doesn't appear to be a coincidence. It looks like, the guy knew what was happening and made a lot of money off of it.
Yeah. Well, just this week, President Biden signed a sweeping overhaul of the U.S. Postal Service into law. The legislation is set to save the agency from future financial ruin and ensure the service can provide 6-day-a-week delivery. Yeah,
Robbie's excited.
I save it from financial ruin. Nothing can save it from financial ruin. And I would privatize this service. Let someone else. I mean, Amazon has perfected the art of cheaply delivering you exactly what you want, like immediately. Private companies can do this better than the Postal Service.
Amazon heavily relies on the Postal Service to subsidize them in the pursuit
Why
of
don't we
this.
just cut out the middleman?
But then Amazon will all of a sudden be a lot more expensive, and when they don't have to compete with the Postal Service.
Or UPS, there's just...
So what I love about the Postal Service being literally written into the Constitution is that if you understand that one of the most important industries at the time, communications industries at the time, was the mail. The framers wanted that nationalized. One of the most important things they wanted nationalized. And so you can imagine if these same framers lived in a time where there were other industries that didn't exist yet, they'd have wanted those nationalized and put in the Constitution too. So I love reminding people that the framers were not as kind of hands-off government people. And as I'm sure you know, because like the libertarians love to go back and find the libertarians who were around then, but then you find out that actually a lot of them were not. A lot of them were big government.
Well, but they weren't big central government. For the most part, some of them were. They weren't big federal government, right? They didn't give the federal government much. I mean, under the Articles of...
The Hamiltonian wing.
It was more than under the Articles of Confederation, obviously, but it was not... So much of what our federal government does today, I think, would be very alien to them. They'd be like, what? No, the states are supposed to do that.
Well, right. I mean, and even in their lifetimes, Madison was like, wait a minute, how is Hamilton like getting canal digging through the federal government? I didn't think that was in there. But, well, Madison, you should have paid closer attention. You wrote the thing. Mm-hmm. He just put in some amendments there. And
you should have watched Hamilton, then he'd know everything that Hamilton was doing.
Would know.
as do most people now.
Yeah, indeed, they do. And we'll have more Rising right after this.